This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Martin from the Accelerator team, and I'm here with David Bolton from Visuna. Hi David, how are you doing?
Morning.
Thanks for joining us today. So David, your recruitment.
Yep.
Just before we get into recruitment and what good and bad looks like, give us 20 seconds on how you've got to where you are.
Yeah, 16 years in technical manpower, energy recruitment, out of university, straight into the frying pan and loved it ever since. Very energetic industry, great to be around. I've learned a lot, travelled a lot, and enjoyed it along the way. So yeah, great.
It always helps if you enjoy what you do, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It makes it a bit easier to get
Absolutely.
doesn't it? So David, depending on when people watch this, if you're watching this when it comes out, recruitment's tough at the moment.
Yes.
There's a lot of disruption, I think. I'll not go over the old things, but because they might come out, but obviously we had, the normal, we had the new normal, we're in like the fourth iteration of whatever normal is now. What's happening with recruitment at the moment? What's the headline issues?
I think the headline issue is finding talent, is finding the right talent, is retaining the right talent, and actually attracting people who want to work within a business or within an industry that might not be as sexy as it was before. So within our case, oil and gas, we transferred more so into the renewables market. There's a lot of transferable skills from oil and gas engineering across into energy, which has then left a huge gap for people in the oil and gas industry, which then creates...
So everyone's rushed for the new jobs, but a lot of the old jobs are still there.
Correct. So not only that, there's a skills shortage with regards to experience. We have a huge gap from 50 to 60, a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. The last recession in 2019, 2020, a lot of people moved out of industry, moved into the new energy industry or retired.
Yeah.
So you've got that huge skills gap and huge knowledge or lack of knowledge within that market there, which is creating opportunities, but it's also creating a lot of issues because there's a lot of knowledge that has been missed from the industry. So what we're trying to do is try and plug that gap, try and support that gap, but also find the people that has the transferable skills into the different marketplaces for that.
So everything you've said there is about your sector particular, but you could almost apply that to almost any other sector. You've got, AI taking everyone's job apparently. You've got, machines are getting better, faster, more nimble. You could almost apply that to anyone. So it's good to know it's not just everyone else's sector.
Absolutely. But the one thing I would say on AI, I think for me, AI isn't taking all everyone's jobs. I think there's a misconception on that. I don't believe that for a second. Yeah, I was just giving you the headline from the Daily Mail or the Mirror or the Sun. Yes.
There. Yeah.
I think for me, AI is here to stay. AI is here to develop and allow us to transform quicker and to understand things a lot quicker. Certainly within the energy industry. I think it will take some jobs, but I think it will speed up processes, which will allow us to naturally work harmoniously together. I think, again, recruitment, there's a common misconception that AI will take everyone's jobs. Recruitment from an administrative perspective, it will. But actually from a personal perspective, for me, people buy from people. They don't buy from companies, they don't buy from computers, they buy from people, and you build that relationship through time, and that's why people come back to you, not only clients, candidates, everything.
There's an interesting quote I saw yesterday: AI won't take your job, the people using AI will take your job.
Yeah.
And I think AI is a supplement to already good people.
Yeah.
That's the way I would say it. So,
absolutely.
So David, if we look at recruitment then, most people probably think it's putting someone in a job. That's the, to recruit someone means normally to give them a job, if we give a simple definition. But we were chatting before we started, and there's a few different areas, isn't it? It starts with attracting. You've got to attract the right candidate, haven't you?
Yes, and all of that starts in the qualification process. So not only the qualification process with regards to the candidate, but the client. You need to truly understand, and I think that again is the issue when you have good recruitment and bad recruitment. You need to really understand what the client wants, what the client needs, to ensure that you find the right person and they remain within that job, but they also have the right skill set to do that.
So you're talking about the client as if it's your client, but if you're in business, that's something the business owner needs to do and can work with
Correct.
a good recruiter to do.
Absolutely.
And say, well, I need someone, but I don't quite know. I need them to do a bit of that and a bit of that. Oh well, we'll work with you to identify the need, I suppose, isn't it?
I think the problem with clients is sometimes there's a very short job description, go out and find it, and it's like, that's not going to help me.
People don't do very simple jobs, do they?
No, but again, you don't then understand culturally what the fit is. You know, what the type of desirable experience or the exact experience that is needed to perform this job, or qualifications, as it were. So we've had it in multiple occasions where we'll qualify a job and then we'll come back and say, well, actually, I needed this qualification. So that time and that effort that you've spent for a day, 2, 3 or a week is now lost.
Yeah.
So again, that qualification process. So from a hiring standpoint, as the client, I would be trying to provide as much information as possible to allow you to find that right person. Then from a recruitment standpoint, you question, you open, you probe the client to truly understand that and try and understand really what the values are and the cultural element is to find the right fit for that. And then you go out and recruit.
Because the person is, people are complex, they've got to have the right skills, but also be the right person, the right kind of person, whether it's what drives them, their motivations, their attitudes to various things,
Yeah, and everyone has different core drivers. It could be from earning as much money as possible. It could be stability and longevity within a role. It could be opportunity and development. These are all things that I would be asking a client to verify, so I can truly pitch that to a candidate to make sure that they're that right fit.
And I presume the reason you do that then, again, just how this helps people in business who are out there struggling with their recruitment, I presume you do that because you know that you can't go to the market with a job role without having that all in place. Otherwise it falls apart pretty quick, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Saw that advert, Dave. What's that about then? Doing a bit of this?
Yeah.
You need to know what the job is, don't you? Yeah.
Again, it's just having all of this information because anyone can apply for it. We have candidates that apply for jobs. If we have a small and short job description based on what we're given from clients, despite probing, I know that we will get 100 plus CVs of people requiring or inquiring about the role, and 5 are right. So it's wasted time on their part, it's wasted time on our part, and for me, it's not a streamlined process.
So yeah, we do that interestingly when we talk to prospects. We call it triaging. You know, when you go to the A&E, get off to X-ray, get off to wherever else. So we try to make sure that we only attract the clients we want to deal with, which sounds, I don't mean that in a bad way, but we can't act for everybody, no business can. And equally, you can't just recruit anybody. So I suppose what you're saying is, if your job advert just said, you know, Sparky who likes to travel, what does that mean? Travel how far? What kind of Sparky?
Exactly,
You know, what is a
when
Sparky? So and I suppose what you're saying then is, or is what you're saying, the more time you put into getting the right job, role, spec, brief, whatever you want to call it, that will just save you time down the line. It's not lost time, it's saved time.
Absolutely. And I think you then find that you find the candidates quicker because you can narrow your talent pool quicker, and you can qualify candidates quicker because all the information that they're going to ask anyway is there.
Because you're already, when you say qualify, I presume you mean, check them off against your requirements. You know, because you've already thought about it, you're not having to think on your feet, blag an interview.
There's that, but also, the general questions that candidates or I know a candidate will want to know is, how much is it? What's the rotation? What's the length of contract? Is it contract or staff? Where am I based? What fringe benefits do I get? All of these types of things that if you have the answer straight away, you generally know if someone is of interest or not. Then you get into the nitty gritty of the relevant job description or details to then say, actually, this person's right or wrong, or you can coax that out of them a bit more.
So let's say we've got all of that then, David, and you know, and to be fair, we probably started before the attraction stage, I would say there, because at some point there needs to be an advert out, doesn't there?
Yes.
You can't put all of that in the advert. So you know, is it worth having a chat about adverts? Because not everyone wants to use a recruiter. Don't take that the wrong way. They seem lovely, but not everyone wants a recruiter. But also that, you know, it's theoretically possible for people to get this right without a recruiter. It might be easier with a recruiter. I'm sure, I would hope you would argue it is, because that's what you do. But
yes,
at some point you need to do that. You need to put an advert out, and it has to say something. But you're only attracting 30% of the talent pool, because that 30% is the passive candidates above the water. So an iceberg analogy, 30% above the water, they're the passive candidates. They're the ones who are looking. So the advert will only attract people looking for an advert. Right. Generally, because you're not going to prize someone else's best worker out. You might find a few, but again, like you say, an advert, it's all about the first 200-300 words. It's that short element that piques someone's interest. Yeah. Whereas you then send a full job description that goes into the nitty gritty and thinks, actually, this is for me. But that advert is key because you're attracting the right person at the time. But I think that's just your passive candidates. The 70% below the water are your candidates that may well be more aligned to the job description. The passive, they're not looking, but actually once you get into the nitty gritty and you headhunt them, as it were, you're aligning them to a job that is of interest. Culturally, it might well fit them better, the package and the opportunity, and then suddenly that's where you're attracting candidates that a recruiter would do for you, as opposed to you just doing that on your own. Yeah, so you're getting a bigger talent pool. Yeah. So it's quite interesting. So what you're saying on one hand is get a nice niche, narrow job offering that will only apply to the right people, but then get it to more people. Yes. Because the best advert in the world with the most well-defined role will still only hit a third of the market. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's where I think recruiters are worth their weight in gold, because they go out to a market and they fully understand the current space of that market, from compensations and benefits, from competition, i.e. how busy is it in the market right now, and where the opportunities generally lie. Because by not having that information, again, it's very difficult to report back to a client and give them market intelligence. What we want to try and do is not be a recruiter, we want to be a partner of choice, in the sense we're partnering with you to give you information on the market and why you're potentially struggling to hire someone right now. Yeah. Not just, we can't find anyone. You know, we want to give that information that states, well, your image in the market isn't very strong, and the reason for that is your attrition's quite high, or you don't pay well enough, or there's not enough fringe benefits, or it's a whole host of these things. But by partnering and providing that market intelligence, it then allows them to understand what they need to change and align to attract the right talent. So again, so we started with attraction, and again, it is still all about that, making sure that it's like selling a house, I suppose. You could sell your own house, you could put an ad in Gumtree, but most people, like, admit you would speak to an estate agent who would give you proper market intel, what's moving, what not, you know, get rid of that black feature wall, you know, give you some basic advice to try and improve your chances. You would, but interestingly enough, it's funny that you say an estate agent. For me, I would, if you're truly looking to partner with one company, I would suggest use one, maybe two. When you sign a house, you don't have 5, 6 for sale signs outside, because straight away someone looks at it and thinks, hang on a minute, why are so many people trying to sell it? How long has that been on the market? Exactly. How desperate is that seller? Exactly. Yeah. Whereas if you've got one, you think, actually, I want to work with that one company. And same for us, you're partnering, you're providing the information, hopefully we're doing the business correctly together. So let's move on to the next step then. You know, again, we're talking about trying to recruit people here. Someone comes in for an interview. What's going on in the interview world? Because ideally you want to make it so the people coming in have got the technical ability and they're roughly right. And ideally you want to just pick from 2 or 3 great candidates to pick the one you prefer. Yep. There's still presumably a good way to do that, though. There is, and I think that the interview, I would always have 2 interview stages. I'd have the initial understanding whether they have the skill set, requirements to do the job.
and trying to understand a bit about that person. The second phase is really understanding whether they align to that job description and they align to the visions and the values of that company to therefore ensure that they meet the cultural element within the company. Because for me, a lot of it is you could essentially hire the second best person, but if they are trustworthy and they are culturally the right fit, they're a better person to hire.
They'll perform better because they're not the square hole in a round.
Exactly. Round peg,
Square peg in a round hole, sorry, yeah. You don't put the hole in the peg, you put the peg in the hole. So what, like, you know, you mentioned too, who does these? How long should it be? How quick do they need to happen? People are moving on fast now. They're not waiting for weeks for you to gather CVs anymore.
They're not at all. We've been trying to attract some people to join us, certainly in the tech industry, and we've interviewed 6-7 people within the space of 2-3 days. They've all been offered 2 or 3 jobs, which is indicative of the market. So what we try to do, as soon as we find someone that we think is right for the role, we try and get them, if not into the office face to face, we'll have a Teams call, and then but certainly try and bring them to the office and they can understand what the business is about, what we're about. And we would do that with candidates. We would try and have, again, we would be constantly managing candidates throughout that process, because you're trying to really understand what makes them tick, to make sure that you're ensuring that if an offer is made, they are likely to stay and they are likely to take that role. But again, the beauty is in the qualification of that. You're asking all of the right open probing questions to make sure that they are right, and if not, you need to open it a bit more.
Who should be doing those interviews within an organisation then?
I think certainly the hiring managers. I think whether it's HR to understand from a cultural perspective, but I also think other senior managers in different departments of the business, because then they can understand how that person is, where they may see them fitting within the business and the organisation. But also, it just allows the candidate to understand a little bit more about the business from a different perspective. So it gives someone a greater understanding of the organisation, which allows them to make that decision hopefully a bit quicker.
What are things that employers or people trying to recruit are doing, I suppose, wrong? I saw something the other day, it was one of these probably didn't happen kind of stories on the internet. You know, I turned up for an interview and the people interviewing me were like 20 minutes late. They, you know, like, well, with respect, I don't want to work for you if that's how you treat me in an interview. There must be some things that employers can just get disastrously wrong. They've got the perfect candidate sitting in front and it was theirs for the taking. And, you know, how are they messing these things up then?
Honestly, I don't know. But I think the problem, again, is time in some instances. And I think people who are doing the interview need to make sure that they are blocking out time accordingly, and that they're prepared and that they have the information, and that they're not just getting there on time because they're late, in my mind. They're there early because they show that they're eager, they're professional, and that they're really interested to interview this person. And hopefully that then comes across in the same way with that candidate as well.
Because it's hard to say you wanted if everything you've done is make it look like they're not wanted. Well,
exactly.
That's a tricky sell, that, isn't it?
Exactly, and I think that in itself is difficult if you're managing a lot of people. I think you have to give the right time to people, and you can't keep putting that time off. You have to make sure that you have that time, you're on time, and you're present. You're in the room with that person and not thinking of other things. And I think your consultants, your colleagues get more out of you for that, as does the interviewee in that instance as well. Good.
Let's say you've made an offer. You've mentioned already it's not just about money, it's not just about security, length, location, it's a mix of all of these things. If you had to, you know, say what people are normally after from a job, you know, I mean, money obviously has to be right. Doesn't have to be great, but it has to be enough. And we could talk about money and compensation all day, but you know, what other types of benefits are people asking for at the moment? What are they all asking to work from home, or are they all happy to come in? Like, talk us through what people are after at the moment.
I think certainly since COVID, I think that hybrid working is a key model for a lot of people. And I personally think that the hybrid model since COVID is a fantastic solution. It gives people more opportunity to spend time at home, and not have to travel as much. And also it allows people that freedom to be in an office and interact with their colleagues as well. So I think hybrid working is huge for a lot of people right now. I think advancement, promotion and opportunity within an organisation, and not just if you do this, that's where you get to. I think it's having that journey along the way and having regular reviews to make sure that you're on track and you're performing, and if you are performing, you're working towards that promotional element. But on top of the promotional element, it's what comes with that. I think there's always a misconception that, oh, you want to be promoted, that's it, but where do you go from there? What's your next? It's like you're driving. You're never looking at just a car in front, you're always looking at 2 or 3 or 4 cars in front, because you're always trying to think of what's my next move and where am I going next and what does that opportunity look like. So I think there's that. Obviously money is a huge element to that. I also think now, certainly within the marketplace that we're in, and a lot of consultants or candidates coming out of university, a lot of it now is environmental based, from an ESG, environmental social governance, in the fact that they want to see that companies are doing right environmentally and socially. So with regards to social wise, charitable work, supporting the local community, assisting with personal circumstances for people within an office, flexibility from that standpoint. Environmental, again, giving back to the local environment and being more environmentally friendly. Charitable days. We've recently created a different approach to that we have, rather than planting a tree, which a lot of people do right now, which is great anyway, but planting a tree for every consultant we place, but actually a can for a candidate. So every candidate that we place, we will provide some food to the local bank.
Oh, food, so not lava.
No, yeah.
So every time a recruiter get the tinnies out and celebrate every placement.
But yeah, it's something different, because we're looking at it locally and saying, let's provide food to the local community, because again, in itself, the cost of living's gone up, homelessness, the percentage increase as well. So we're trying to give back to our local community for that, and that is a lot of what people are looking at now from an organisation.
So I remember, I don't remember exactly when, but I feel like probably for the last 10 years or so, there's been a move towards that. People like Simon Sinek talk about, it's hard to recruit millennials. Yeah, that's not their fault. We've made these people you've got to adapt your style to them. Are you seeing any abatement in that, or do you think that is here to stay? Or people just, they're going to want to make sure that you're a nice firm, a nice place?
Interesting you mentioned the millennial element. I think, certainly from when I started in recruitment, and within the industries that we worked in, longevity and sustainability within a role was absolutely huge. That was what a lot of employees looked at first. Have you remained with this business for a period of time, through the difficult times, through the good times, because it shows that you've got resilience, you're determined, you're motivated, and actually you're good at your job. And I think now that's changed a lot. And I think because the marketplace is booming, especially within recruitment and various other sectors, people tend to stay within a job for a year and then they advance via another company because they've been offered a lot more. They've been given more opportunity. So I think, again, within that, people don't leave organisations necessarily because the organisation isn't doing right by them and they're supporting them. I think a lot of companies are coming in to try and attract them and pull them away from that now to offer a lot more money. So I don't necessarily think people leave because of a bad organisation. Sometimes people leave because of people.
Yeah.
But I think gone are the days now where longevity within a role is key. Yeah. And that could be to do with some of the benefits offered, and that could be to do with the job element in itself. And that's where I
suppose if you're still offering a traditional benefit package style, then that might have been great, and the people who have been there 30 years might love it, but it might not necessarily be the right fit.
Yeah.
And again, that's where the intel, the two-way relationship comes.
Exactly.
Like, you're not getting recruits because you're not offering this. You're losing people because you're not offering this.
Yeah. And interestingly, when we spoke to a few people recently, we were offering that hybrid, flexible model. and the ability to have flexi hours within the office. And a lot of people really love that fact that, well, I'm travelling 30 minutes, I want to start at 10 o'clock instead, because it gives me the opportunity to miss the traffic on the way in and the way out. And actually I've got kids, so I want to drop them off and pick them up. So again, I think it's understanding what that person's core drivers are to create that model for them. Granted, you have to have consistency for everyone, but I think if you have that, it then allows people to work together and actually love going to the work to the job.
What do you do then, David, in a sector where that isn't really practical? So if you're on the 2 to 10 shift at Nissan, it's 2 to 10, and you've got to be there at 2, and you're there till 10. What can you do apart from the flexi, the hybrid, the work from home? Because to be blunt, probably a third of the market can't do that. As much as they may want to, you can't put wheels on a car from home, can you? What other things are there that could be offered them?
But that's where I think within that type of market, people look for more money. People are maybe...
So less of the flexibility, it just puts more emphasis on the...
Because again, you have a skill within a particular skill set, rather, or you have a experience within that skill set. And very much within the engineering markets that we work in, you don't get paid for the work, for your time off. You only get paid for the work that you're doing if you're in a contract role. For people working in contract, it's more a case of I want to work as much as I can. I want to have...
So by contract, you mean people who've got a day rate, each day you work, you make money.
So we might have people who go to the Middle East, who go to Africa, who go and work in a refinery or on an offshore wind farm. They work for 3 weeks at a time, 12-hour days, and then they have 3 weeks off. So there's that element, again, understanding what makes people tick. They have the flexibility. I want to work 3 weeks, but then I want to have 3 weeks off. And that's
I don't want 3 full-on weeks and then emails and calls.
Exactly.
You
leave your work at the door then, and you go back to that. So again, that's what makes some people tick by, and for them, that's how they like that. They like the fact that they have the flexibility within the working hours, but they get paid well for it, and they get to travel the world. A lot of people. That's a huge part of it for some people, because they're enjoying the job that they're doing, that they're providing a service, but they're travelling the world, going to some amazing places.
Sounds like you're describing accountancy there, but I got confused there. So can we talk about onboarding a little bit then, David? Because again, you could have all of these things in place and still mess it up, couldn't you?
Yes.
You could have the exact suite package, the perfect role, the perfect person, the value match, everything could be nailed, and you can still blow it, can't you?
You're not going to get onboarding right all the time, but I think the beauty is in the detail. So making sure from start to finish what you need to do, from verifying qualifications to the contractual setup, to hitting the deadlines that you say you're going to hit. And if you're unsure on deadlines, give yourself a few more days to make sure that you're not constantly pushing back on that. I think for me, the communication throughout this process is critical. Is constant communication with that candidate to ensure that they're still engaged, to make sure nothing has changed throughout that process, but also you're providing the relevant information at timely parts of that to make sure that they are aware of when that's going to happen.
So you're great, David. Will you start the 1st of September? Don't then just not speak to them for the next week and a half.
Correct.
Make sure you're in touch, because you're going to need basic stuff, bank details, personal details. You may as well get that underway rather than just someone turn up on the 1st and go, I've got a job, I'm not really sure who I'm meant to speak to or where I'm going. And I didn't know how many hours I'm working today. Like, you need to try and manage the void. And then when they turn up, I presume it's the same again. You've got to make sure someone is looking after them. They know what they're meant to be doing and where they sit. And it sounds silly, but
I think certainly if joining our organisation, we have a full onboarding process via our online system, which is everything for all the documents required, all of the introductions. There's an org chart on there so you can see where you sit within the business, who you report to, the other disciplines and industry, or the other sectors within that. But then I think it's key that certainly our HR would manage that process for the whole week. And there's a full week process. So when someone starts, That's your day. That's your first day. This is what it's going to look like. These are the people you're going to speak to. This is your second day. And then you have a review at the end of each day, and then the review at the end of the week. Yeah. What went well? What were you unsure of? What were you unhappy with? What do you want to see more of? The second week you then go into it, less points of contact, but again you're constantly managing that throughout and communicating just to make sure that everything is what you said it was in the interview is actually coming to fruition, and you supporting them through that.
Yeah, and that's also a vital opportunity for the employer to then identify if they've actually made the wrong appointment here. Because I think it was Gary Vee. I saw a quote from the other day, and he said something like, I can't remember, but get rid fast was the crux of it. Don't.
Yeah. Oh, it's
if on the end of day 3, like, they have not put a single foot right. This isn't just new job nerves. They just we've got the wrong person altogether. If you're not spending any time with them, you're not going to spot that, are you?
Exactly, and that again in itself is having the right touch points throughout the day and making sure you're giving that person as much opportunity to learn the role and be well situated within the role. And otherwise, like you say, I think again there is certainly within recruitment, you keep that person for a period of time. The endeavour's there, but they're not picking certain things up, or they're not doing this, and by communicating with them and making sure you're going through those points at the right time, you ultimately find out if they're right or wrong for the job.
Because you give yourself the best chance then.
Yeah.
You need to know that if, at the end of a month probation, a 2-month probation, whatever it is, 6-month probation, whatever that period is, you need to know with certainty that is the right person. Because if you're going to let them go, you've got to go through all this again, haven't you?
Yes.
So again, why would you not want to make as much likelihood as possible that this is going to work? And some of that does rest on the employer, doesn't it? It's not all up to the candidate, the recruit.
But that's the first 6 months is the most investment, is the greatest investment for that employee to start, because you've got the recruitment element, you've got the constant communication with the hiring manager, with the other colleagues, and that there is the greatest investment. And that's what upsets me the most when someone leaves after that first year, because you've invested so much time, so much effort in that person to succeed, and they're starting to come to fruition and they leave. So as an employer, they look at that and think, and this is where recruitment companies think, actually I can pinch that person in a year's time or 2 years because they've had such a great onboarding, a great training. I don't need to do that with them. Boom, you have them now, and that's it. But when they move across, there's that misconception that they don't actually realise what they're coming into, and there's not as much touch points, and therefore they then don't get as well embedded within the company. Yeah.
What you kind of mentioned there about sneaking someone away, and you mentioned earlier the 30%, 70%, the iceberg analogy you gave. The 70% of people who on the face of it are just cracking on, getting on with their day job, who every now and again are leveraged out of their role. I don't know why I like that little lever there for you. So you're leveraging people out of roles. How do you prevent that then? How do you retain people? Because retaining people, keeping people was the last thing we probably said.
Yeah, attrition's a killer in everything, and retaining people. Again, it's all about communication, two-way street. You've got to have regular reviews. You've got to have regular meetings with your team to ensure that they're developing, they're hitting the relevant KPIs if any are set. And KPIs isn't to make sure that someone is doing the job, it's to make sure that they are understanding that, and if there's any areas that we can further develop and provide more training for, to make sure that is actually coming to fruition and they're making placements and generating money for themselves and the company. But again, I think it's all about communication, constant support, constant reviews, constant understanding as to where they're at, and providing constructive feedback on a weekly or a monthly basis. I try and work with all my team all the time to make sure that they have the opportunity to manage up as well. What do you want to see more? What do you want me to do with you more? And how do you want to work with your colleagues in a different way, so then we can try something different and we can create something that makes them feel empowered and motivated to want to change and develop more.
So it could be, because I presume if those things are in place, it's harder for you to ring up and say, got £4,000 if you move down the road. They go, £4,000, not worth the risk.
Exactly.
Is it that simple?
Sometimes it is, but again, I think if we're looking to pull some away from that,
not that £4,000 isn't worth having. £4,000's £4,000, but you know what?
Of course,
because money isn't everything. It's not an absolute. No. If you've got the other 90% of everything that someone wants from a role, they're not likely to go for that couple of grand, are they?
They're not. But if you're creating an opportunity, something that has that sass and that pizzazz there that says, look, if you join us, we'll give you your own area. You can develop this, make it your own as much as you can, which you can, you know, from a hierarchical perspective, you can grow within the business quite quickly by generating more opportunities and cash for yourself. And I think a lot of the time when people move, it's because they've gone from a recruitment consultant and they've gone into a senior or a lead or a managerial role. And sometimes that they've not necessarily been given that opportunity in the organisation that they have been, or they've been talked about in that. And I think that's how you retain staff. You understand where they want to be.
Because that's the preventative move, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
So if you're telling people how to then attract those 70%,
yep.
The opposite is what you need to do to keep them, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're saying, I've got a role here where you can head up your own team and build that, and you know, we'll give you a seat at the table down the line, you know, well, if someone wants that and they're not having those conversations, they will have their head turned, won't they?
But that's why we set objectives, and we set short, medium, long term. Where do you see yourself in 12 months' time? I want to be a senior. Okay, let's work towards that. Let's review it monthly.
Well, here's what you need to do.
Exactly.
This is what we think you need to do more of, and you know, do you need anything to help you do that?
Yeah. It's very much a collaboration on that, I would say, because otherwise you can just say, do this, and they don't see that end goal and how we get there, but we work towards that common goal.
Yeah, because everyone's had that appraisal, that month-end, year-end, quarter-end, where, again, the person hosting it turns up late. They're like, we've only got 5 minutes. Is everything all right with you then, David? Well, it wasn't. Actually, I had a list of things that I really wanted to speak to, because I never say, I haven't had a monthly catch-up for a year. You can do that terribly, and that just creates that kind of, I suppose, the ability for someone else to then say, we do all of that. And you can speak to the team, and the team will tell you we do all of that. And
there's no purpose. And I think that's why you have a meeting every month, every quarter, because it creates a picture come the end of the year. How was your year? You can't just turn around and say, let's do your year review. What do you think? You've got a picture where you've grown, you've developed over time, or you've had some work-ons that actually we discussed. We talked about what you needed to get better at and where you needed to develop. We've done that, and look how you've progressed because of that. Or let's see how you've got on. And there's a story to tell at the end of the year, whereas if you're not doing those regular meetings and touch points, you don't have that, and it's really difficult to then talk about it.
So it's almost impossible to talk about an issue that was 9 months ago as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
So actually, David, something happened at the Christmas party. I just want to have a word with you. It's like, it's August. What do you mean? I don't even remember what happened. Yeah. So David, we've talked about a bunch of areas there. We started at the attracting, which I thought was the job advert, but you rightly said there's a lot of work needs to go in beforehand. You've got to make sure that whatever the job is attractive. Yeah. You've emphasised, I think, a really important point, that it's not just about adverts, it's the difference, what people do. We've talked about getting someone onboarding them, keeping them, attracting others people, but obviously that works for trying to keep your own as well. What's the one thing you think people are not doing, or one misconception about recruitment and recruitment agencies at the moment?
I just think they're there to recruit people. That's it. Here's your job description. Go and find that person. And again, the qualification in everything that we do is the key. The beauty is in the detail. The more detail we have from the client, from ourselves, from the candidates, the more we can position the right person at the right time, which ultimately reduces the cost. Yeah. Because you could have that requirement to hire for someone for 6 months, but what is that opportunity cost of not having that person in that position? Yeah. What is it costing you month on month that you're not creating?
Work, you're not delivering projects. You haven't got the ability to expand.
And developing the right person at the right time and having those touch points allows you to get to that point quicker, to see that return on investment quicker, and that growth potential for the candidate and the company. So it's all encompassed in one, I think. It's all about communication, qualification, the whole piece.
Good. Thank you very much for coming along today, David. That's been fascinating. We hope you've enjoyed that. As always, we appreciate any feedback, any comments. Please do like and subscribe to the channel to get more content like this direct in your inbox.